The conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
A few moments later.
So let's just thank God this is not October. So it is weighty, it is damning, and it's going to be important for the president to sort of clean that up for himself and for his presidential narrative, because you have this other branch now sort of weighing in and saying, yeah, he's sympathetic because he's forgetful. That is something that Trump will exploit. That's why it's important that this is happening in February and not in October.
Yeah.
Investigation led by a Trump-era holdover prosecutor cleared him of the wrongdoing on classified documents.
No charges.
Cleared him. No charges. End of story. Case closed. Good news. But he has a political piece of bad news woven in there, which is what seems like cheap shot, derogatory attacks on him, which I wouldn't call normal course of investigatory material.
No.
And so maybe Mr. Hur would be better suited going for a job as White House physician. but he'd have to go and get a medical degree, too, because legally there's no interest or relevance to his views of the president's overall memory. If it's very specifically to the mental criminal intent or mens rea, and you say you could have this criminal intent and you didn't remember this, you didn't mean to do it, sure. But talking about how, for example, the president remembers or discusses his son's death and Mr. Hur and his team's apparent view that tells you something. As soon as I saw that today, I thought, wow, that's a real partisan kind of tell in a report that has a good news legal headline.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to follow up on the disastrous press conference that Joe Biden had last night to try to prove that he is mentally fit to be president of the United States after a DOJ report saying basically that the guy is not mentally fit to be president of the United States, because when they were interviewing him in relation to the accusations of him taking classified materials and exposing them as a private citizen, apparently he could not recall when his son died. He couldn't recall when he was vice president of the United States. He also couldn't really have discussions about Afghanistan. I guess he forgot about that as well, too, even though he is passionate about that issue. Biden made so many mental gaffes that it prompted the DOJ to sound the alarm on the fact that this guy clearly is a vegetable, okay? Biden is a vegetable. And his press conference last night basically proved that, yeah, he is in fact a vegetable, because he made a number of mental gaffes during this press conference where he lashed out over the DOJ, basically confirming that Biden is not mentally fit for the office of the president of the United States. Now, in a sane country with a sane media, the media's reaction to this would be, okay, well, do we need to invoke the 25th Amendment, right? This is what we need to be talking about. Why is this guy actually sitting president? Why isn't the Democrat Party actually trying to remove this guy? Because he's clearly not capable of being president of the United States, and how embarrassing this is for this country, especially on the world stage. But no. That's not what they're doing, okay? They're actually lashing out, right? They're lashing out against the DOJ for telling the truth. Specifically, Special Counsel Robert Hur, who they are now trying to expose as a partisan actor, okay? They're saying that, well, this guy's a Republican who is trying to help out Trump, and they're pissed off at him for writing this report the way that he did, instead of actually questioning Biden's mental fitness, which, again, clearly is something that we should be having a conversation about, because of the fact that this guy is clearly mentally deteriorating. So I want to talk about it, but before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Have you guys taken a good look at the banks lately? Now, on the surface, everything may seem fine, But there's a whole lot more going on underneath. It's like looking under the hood of a car and finding a mess of broken wires and parts. The parts are loans for homes, cars, and the credit cards that we use. They're all hitting record highs. It's really scary when you think about it. Why risk your money for a tiny 5% when things are so shaky? This is where Noble Gold can help. They're like that friend that knows all about how to keep money safe. They suggest gold and silver, oldies but goodies in the finance world. Plus, they've got a sweet deal, a 1/4 ounce gold standard coin this month if you qualify. That sounds pretty cool, right? If you're curious, just give them a call at 877-646-5347. That is 877-646-5347. And don't worry, it's just a chat, no pressure. They will help you figure out if gold and silver are right for you. Or you can visit noblegoldinvestments.com and take the first step towards a safer, more secure financial future. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind.
There's no doubt in my mind that that this special prosecutor could have written the same report without using these words: elderly man with a poor memory. I'm you know, like you, I'm a simple country journalist. I can find a lot of different ways to say this.
Yeah, you know what?
Without
I'm a
saying
simple
something
country
like that.
lawyer.
Yeah.
John, I'm a simple country lawyer, and I know. What's the headline? What should the headline from this report be? Not indicted.
Not guilty. Right.
Not the evidence to indict him. Yeah. It's not there. And the clear differences, as he wrote, between Trump and Biden. That should be.
And I would have thought, Joe.
Wait, hold on, John. Hold on, John. Do you think that this guy is so naive? You think this guy is so stupid? Do you guys think this guy is so clueless that he didn't know by putting words in that Donald Trump would love for him to put in there, that wasn't going to be the headline for the New York Post, that wouldn't be on every... The guy knew. He's a Trumper who knew.
Right.
So why in the world would the Justice Department allow that dicta to be in there? It's gratuitous.
Well,
and he knows it's gratuitous, and it was bad faith. It was bad faith that he did it.
Yeah, so you seen how you heard that. Okay, so you have Joe Scarborough, who is upset, mad, right? He's pissed off that Robert decided to expose Biden's mental issues, okay? And apparently, again, they think that this is some type of partisan attack, even though I would argue that if the DOJ wasn't partisan, they would actually do what Democrats have claimed, which is that nobody's above the law, right? Including Joe Biden, because they admitted that, yeah, the guy definitely purposely exposed the classified material as a private citizen. He definitely committed a crime, but we really, don't want to prosecute him because it would be elder abuse. Okay, this guy will have to stand trial. He can't remember anything, and the jury would be so sympathetic towards the fact that he's a pathetic and weak man that they probably would find it hard to convict him. Again, this is essentially what they said. So again, what you see here is the mainstream liberal media trying to play the game now and attack the messenger instead of actually addressing the message. Because we do know that if the message was about Trump, that the narrative would be different. Because we all know that Joe Scarborough, because he's a partisan actor, he's exactly what he's claiming this DOJ investigator is, he would not be blowing up on MSNBC, boohoo, whining and crying and throwing a fit. Oh, you can't question the president's mental fitness, right? We know he wouldn't be doing that if the message was about Trump. If this DOJ report came out and it said the things about Trump that it says about Biden, we all know that mainstream liberal media would be cheering it on, okay? They would be hailing this guy as a hero. That's what they would be doing. Because Joe Scarborough is the same guy that just a few weeks ago, he was praising the Biden administration, the Biden campaign for running ads claiming that Trump has some mental issues and that he may be unfit to run for office from a mental perspective. Take a look.
This is what's so critical. The Biden campaign, which is supposed to be, out of touch, the old man doesn't know what he's doing, they've seized the zeitgeist. They understand. they understand now, and they're turning it out quickly, that Donald Trump says something stupid, it's up online like 15 seconds later. It's on TikTok, it's on YouTube, it's on X, it's on Instagram Reels. I mean, we've been seeing this over the last week, just how quickly they're moving on Trump. And I gotta say, I think this is why Trump got away with this in the past, because all of his opponents were flat-footed. And maybe even the Biden campaign in 2020 didn't have to do this as much as they're doing in 2024. But there, you can sense, is a real understanding. Donald Trump loses his mind, forgets what he's saying, confuses Barack Obama with Joe Biden, confuses World War II with whatever the hell he was confusing, confuses Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi. The whole world's going to see in 3 seconds, and they're going to see in 3 seconds because they're on him now. You talk about a tight man-to-man defense. You cover the White House. What's happened over the past week or two? Because they are really, the rapid response has to be driving Donald Trump crazy.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand, questioning Trump's mental fitness or his mental health is totally fine. I mean, they do that all the time on MSNBC. In fact, again, that's their new favorite talking point in attack against Trump is Trump's alleged mental gaps. Okay, they've been highlighting that on MSNBC as a way to cover for Biden. But when you have this report that comes out from the Democrat-led DOJ, ran by Merrick Garland, by the way, showing that, Biden has some issues with his mental faculties. Oh, that's too far, right? You're going too far. That's out of bounds. It's inappropriate. Again, it's amazing how that works because even MSNBC had to bring on a U.S. attorney to explain to these buffoons why it was actually appropriate for this report to include commentary on Biden's mental state, while also at the same time he had to explain that this wasn't really on Robert as much as it was on Merrick Garland in regards to the report that was ultimately disclosed to the public. Take a look.
Yeah, so let me start down a path, Willie, that will make me unbelievably unpopular this morning. So number one, under the special counsel regulations, the special counsel, has an obligation. He shall write a report. He must write a report. If you're writing a report to the Attorney General of the United States and you're recommending that someone not be prosecuted, which I think is the right recommendation, then you would tell the Attorney General why you think that person ought not be prosecuted. I was a federal prosecutor for a long time. We assess our witnesses, we assess our cases, we talk about them, we talk about it, we talk about the factors that we think will and will not play in front of a jury. If Rob Hur's assessment was that Mr. Biden was sympathetic or that he had a faulty memory, that is absolutely something you would tell the Attorney General in a confidential report. When the report goes from her to the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, it is a confidential report. Then it is up to Merrick Garland whether or not to release it, in part or in whole. I think this is a flaw in the special counsel regulations. When I was a prosecutor, if I decided a case was not meritorious, I would close it. Period. The end. I wouldn't talk about it. I would close it. But as a special counsel, you can't do that. You must write the report. So it doesn't make sense to me, Willie, that if I'm telling the Attorney General of the United States why someone ought not be prosecuted, that I wouldn't also tell him exactly why I came to that conclusion.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, so again, this is hilarious. All of these people are upset with Robert for writing this report about Biden's mental state, and they're blaming him for the details being released to the public when it actually wasn't on him. It was actually on Merrick Garland, who is the head of the DOJ. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Okay. Merrick Garland doing this actually is fascinating because it brings up questions about whether or not this is a part of the grand plan, right? Is this a part of the grand plan to ultimately have Biden removed? Also, keep in mind that I'm not sure who made the decision to have Biden come out last night and to speak about it and then to further embarrass himself even more and to basically reaffirm that the DOJ report is in fact correct about the state of his mental health. I personally think that Biden's been thrown under the bus. Okay, I think that this is the beginning of the end for Joe Biden. This is the beginning of the Democrat coup against Biden. I think they're gonna get rid of him. Okay, there's absolutely no way they can move forward with this guy going into the 2024 election as their nominee. Okay, I mean, they're basically handing Trump the presidency if they do that, right? I mean, again, I'm telling you, if Biden has a Mitch McConnell moment, okay, on live television at a nationally televised event, like, for example, a debate, which, again, as time moves on, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, despite what Michael Steele says, right? It's only going to get worse. You're going to have more of this, okay? Because the guy ain't get younger, okay? He's deteriorating rapidly. And being president of the United States instead of being in a nursery home is not really helping him, okay? It's not helping him at all. So if he has a moment like that on a debate stage or some live television event that's, televised nationally, it is over, okay? There's no way that the mainstream liberal media is going to be able to gaslight their way through explaining that type of, medical emergency if that happens to Biden, okay? But there's a significant chance that Biden's going to have some major gaffe that's not going to be explainable, and it's going to tank his campaign, right? He's going to be done. He will have zero chance of winning, okay? Unless, who knows? You do have a group of people in this country that will vote for a vegetable if they can keep their so-called rights to abortion. And then also on top of that, we can't forget about the possibility of election finagling. So who knows, right? But with that being said, until then, Democrats like Dan Goldman, they're going to continue to gaslight the public into believing that Joe Biden is as sharp as a tack.
Last night in his response. I do. I think what the president standing out there really powerfully explaining how absurd it is that there would be accusations that he would not remember when his son died, which was, such a critical moment. And it was important, I think, for him to show, as he did in answering the question about the Middle East, how much of a grasp and how experienced and wise he is, especially right now on foreign policy issues. And I spoke to him on October 7th when I was in Israel, a couple hours after the Hamas attack. And that was the day before this interview began. And he demonstrated an unbelievable mastery of this entire region. He had already reached out to a number of different leaders. He understood all of the vortexes and all of the issues and tension points. This is someone whose age has a tremendous benefit in his experience and his understanding and his knowledge of foreign policy. Certainly. Going back many years. That was the message she was trying to get across. And that has been to our benefit in Ukraine. Yeah, and that's been to the benefit as he's rallied allies in Europe against Ukraine.
But it also created, though,
dealt with a difficult situation.
I understand. Wow, incredible. Listen to this guy. The gaslighting is insane. I don't know how you can get up in the morning and put yourself on national television and just gaslight the American people like this and claim that Biden's age is to his benefit at this point. It's just clearly and obviously not. Does anybody really believe that Biden's making foreign policy decisions? He's not. Like, he doesn't have the ability to. Okay, he doesn't. It is very clear. I mean, the dude's getting Mexico and Egypt mixed up. He's talking about meeting with dead people. He cannot articulate himself. He is a vegetable at this point. And this guy is trying to gaslight us into believing that, Joe Biden's, that's to his benefit. It's not to his benefit. He's not mentally sharp. And he may be trying his best. And he may have a general understanding of what's going on, but clearly and obviously, there's a lot to be desired from the commander-in-chief, right? We should expect better of the guy that is supposed to be the highest presiding officer in the United States of America. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So again, this is what Democrats are doing. They're once again pissing on your leg and then telling you that it's raining. It's amazing.
I understand. What it also created, though, was a moment where he conflated or mixed up Mexico with Egypt. And to be clear, a couple of hours later, Donald Trump thought the leader of Hungary was actually the leader of Turkey. This is just a name flip, but it's a moment, and it's a moment at a time when voters are concerned. And
you know what's funny about this? How they keep trying to use Trump's gaffes as, proof that, this is the same. And it's not the same, because if you actually listen to Trump speak, he can go on for hours and hours And he can tell stories. He can talk about policy. He can have a substantive conversation for hours on end, okay, with no teleprompter, just off the top of his head. And he does this all the time, So clearly and obviously, when you're talking all the time for hours straight, which is very impressive for Trump to be doing at his age, yeah, he may make a gaffe or two, but it's few and far between. And you're talking about Trump giving speeches and doing rallies all day long for days and months on end. So if you find one or two gaffes, yeah, that's going to be totally normal. Nobody is sounding the alarms over that because everybody kind of knows in the context of all of Trump's speeches that that's very rare. However, with Biden, this dude never really gives press conferences. He doesn't give speeches like that. And when he does, he's all over the place every single time. Every single time, it's very clear that, okay, this guy's not operating at the level that he should be operating for the commander-in-chief of the United States. That's the difference. So these guys are trying to pick out little things here and there that Trump messes up and trying to compare it to Biden. And it's ridiculous. It really is.
And I know the president pushed back on that. People get frustrated about that, but it's just true.
Yeah, it's also true that Speaker Mike Johnson went on Meet the Press and confused Iran and Israel, which is a much more significant mistake than President Sisi as being in Mexico. But I'm not going to sit here saying Mike Johnson has no memory loss or, that he's ill-equipped to be Speaker of the House because he made an obvious incidental, tangential mistake. And it's wrong to think that because President Biden made a simple incidental mistake that everyone understood what he was referring to.
How many incidents does Biden have to have before you start to ask questions, right? How many meetings with dead people does Biden have to have before you ask questions? Okay, Biden doesn't remember when he was vice president. Biden doesn't remember when his son died. Biden is literally missing holes in his memory of things that should be ingrained in his memory. Okay, it should be permanent things. This is something that is concerning. But again, this is what Democrats do. They're trying to clean this up. They're trying to clean it up. Biden is done. You can't clean this up.
That has anything to do with his mental acuity. And especially when you're now trying to compare him to another elderly man who is charged with 4 indictments, who doesn't believe that the law applies to him and makes all these mistakes. Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley, Donald Trump makes more mistakes on this stuff than Joe Biden does. And for some reason, the media doesn't want to focus on that. But he is a danger to our country, Donald Trump, whereas Joe Biden has been a tremendous asset to our country as our...
You know what's hilarious about that? Is that if Trump was making the mistakes at the same level and frequency that Biden was making mistakes, of course they'd be covering it, right? Of course they'd be. I mean, this guy's trying to act like the mainstream liberal media is friendly towards Trump. No, they go after Trump for every little thing. If Trump was making the same mistakes Biden is making, then they would be highlighting it all day. They would quite literally have a highlight reel of Trump making these mistakes, but they don't. Right? They got a few clips, but they don't have a whole 5 or 6 minute highlight reel like we have of Biden making these mistakes. Again, the reason why is because Trump, despite the fact that he speaks a lot more than Biden does, he actually does a lot more of these public events. He talks a lot more. His mistakes are few and far between, especially compared to Biden, who barely speaks. And when he does speak, he's all over the place. Again, so it's amazing the cope and gaslighting here from Democrats, but this is what you can expect. What you also can expect is the mainstream liberal media is probably not going to be covering Biden's speeches like that moving forward here into the future because, again, it's too apparent now, and they're going to try to cover up for him as much as they can after this kind of calms down. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.